under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horn, and the Editor, Glenn Gilbo. Let's get back to the Max Home Hotline. And LSU National Champion, former Major Leaguer, Lafayette's own Mikie Mahtook joins us here on Tiger Rag Radio. Mikey, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are y'all doing?
Oh, we're doing well. Great to have you on the show.
Are you ready Are you ready to answer all the questions and solve all of our curiosities about else?
That's what I'm here for. I'm here to solve everybody's problems and try to calm the nerves of everybody.
Okay, so the biggest thing we're worried about right now is we're concerned about Chase Shore's pitching on the third day of each series right now, and we're concerned about the relative hitting slump the team's been in. What's going to happen?
I'm not that concerned, Mikey.
I'll start with the Chase Shores topic. Listen, he's coming off of basically 2 full seasons of not pitching. And, I know we have 4 weekends left in the season, but, that doesn't just come very often. The velocity's there. It's the polish that really hasn't come back quite yet. And that's, location, being able to throw a slider for strikes. He's given up a lot more hits. He's walking guys, give up a lot more hits. Not a ton of extra base hits, although I know he'd give up a homer this past weekend. A lot of singles, but he's putting himself in trouble by walking guys and putting them on base, and so the singles end up turning into RBI hits. And I'm not worried about him. I honestly, obviously, I wish he was pitching better, but I think that as far as the third starter goes in the weekend, he's our best bet, and he has the most upside moving forward. I believe that, you kind of look at what Gage Jump did last year in the first part of the season. He kind of really took off in the second half of the season. And I was hoping that you would see something different from Chase Shore this past weekend, but I feel like, he gives us our best opportunity long-term on that Sunday start. Jay did something a little different with the opener. I'm not sure how consistent that's going to be. I don't really, I haven't talked to Jay about his thought process in that, but knowing Jay a little bit and getting to know him over the last, 4 years, he doesn't ever make a decision on a whim. It's usually pretty well thought out. So, I'm not necessarily answering that question. I do feel like Chase Shores is the guy on Sunday or in the game 3 of the series. I don't believe that there's another starter that has proven they are ready to assume that role. And so I think they just stay status quo and just allow him to get out of it. I think if you start seeing him locate sliders, he's going to be a lot better. As far as the offense, that's my least of my worries because, at some point in every baseball season, there's a lull in the offense. That's just the reality of baseball. I don't care what level you're at. There's always some stretch where it's not quite as good as it has been, and it feels like they're sleepwalking or they're not having good at bats, and that's a normal thing throughout the course of the season. In 2023, it happened at the back end of the SEC schedule. Right now, it's happening kind of right in the middle. They're figuring out ways to win games like they did this past weekend against Alabama, and then they have obviously Tennessee this weekend, which sometimes when you play a team of that caliber and that type of energy in Alex Box, sometimes that allows the players to raise their level of play and kind of jumpstart the offense and get them back to where they need to be.
How would you relate the 2009 experience that you guys had en route to the championship to this team right now?
I think 2009 was a lot closer to the 2023, the way that roster was constructed, as far as we had a lot of veteran guys. We had a lot of fifth-year seniors or fifth-year and fourth-year seniors. We had a lot of juniors that were going to get drafted, and then we had a lot of sophomores that had a lot of starting experience as freshmen, and then you mix in a few of us freshmen, and they kind of gave a really good mixture of players. And they had that in 23. Obviously you had Skeens and Dylan Cruz. I think this team is a little bit different in the sense of you have a lot of young guys contributing. and having big roles. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think you can definitely win a national championship that way. But for us, it was we had a lot more of veteran experience than they kind of do on this team. And so as far as that goes, I don't really think that there's a ton of similarities outside of the fact that, they both were high expectations and trying to make a championship run.
Talking with Mikie Mahtook. Mikie, one of the things that I've been wondering about is the usage of Jake Brown. I'm one that believes that guy should start in right field, play all 9 innings,
Correct.
and then figure out what you want to do with Josh Pearson and Ethan Fry. What's your take on Jake Brown and how they're using him? It's great that you can bring him off the bench and he can get you 3 RBIs like he did on Saturday, but he gets you those 3 RBIs after you're down by 4 runs or 3 runs.
Yeah, no. And look, Jake Brown has without a doubt earned his way onto the field. And he should be getting more at bats, and I think Jay knows that. I think Jake Brown knows that. I talked to Jake a little bit last night about it, and the thing about this team, they have all kind of accepted that is the way it's going to be. You're going to get a ton of at bats. It may not be in the first or second. You may get 3, but you don't come in until the 5th. And that's been the recipe so far. I think Jake Brown. I like Jake Brown as the everyday right fielder. I do. I think that he's a dynamic athlete. He's extremely fast. He's a good defender, and he's been swinging the bat really well. But at the same time, there is a spot for Josh Pearson, who seems to come up with big hits whenever you need them. No, he's not going to have the highest average, but he's going to put together really good at bats, and there's a spot for that guy. And Ethan Fry is kind of just taking that DH role, and that's kind of where he's going to be. I don't think you're going to see him too much in the mix out in the outfield. But, I like the way Jake Brown plays. I like the way he has played and is going to continue to play. And I think that defensively, that gives you your best defense with him in right, Stanfield in center field, and Curiel in left. But maybe you do a platoon thing as a DH spot with Josh Pearson and Ethan Fry, because I do think Jake Brown should be in the outfield consistently.
Mikie, as a freshman, you came in and became the starter relatively early in that season in center field, and really helped the team win the national championship big time. What do you think of Derek Curiel coming in from opening day as a freshman, and he hasn't had a game where he didn't get on base yet? What's your thoughts on him as an outfielder and as a hitter?
Yeah, he's been extremely impressive. I mean, he, as a freshman, there's not a lot of guys that come into the lineup that have the type of poise and plate discipline he has at the plate. I mean, he understands the strike zone. He understands who he is as a hitter. He understands what the pitchers are trying to do to him. He never gets rattled, and that's something that you develop usually with more at-bats and more experience. And he has that, as a freshman, which is extremely rare. There's not a lot of guys that you can go back and say, that guy was a day one starter as a freshman and never left the lineup. You had Bregman, you had LeMahieu, you had Dylan Cruz, and you have Curiel. Really, some of the other guys that may have started as freshmen didn't come in here and say, hey, you're going to be the guy right away. And that's a lot of pressure on a freshman. He's handled it flawlessly. I think he's going to be a superstar. I mean, his approach and the way he is at bats that he takes, it's almost, and I don't want to call it slump proof, because that's not, everyone's going to go through their things, but he's going to get on base. He's going to walk, and that shortens the amount of the valleys throughout the course of a season. So he's been extremely impressive. He's way better than I was as a freshman. That's no doubt about it. There's a reason why he started from the beginning. I was, I didn't have the poise and the plate discipline that he has. That's for sure.
I know Jay likes to tinker, and he's shuffled some guys at the top of the order, and that's fine. But do you think, Mikie, this might be a little bit unthinkable because he's doing such a great job at the number 9 hole, but do you think if it comes to a point where this offense continues to be a little bit stagnant, that Jay thinks about moving Stanfield to the top of the order just to see what that looks like? Because, again, he loves to experiment, and that, I think, is the one experiment he hasn't tried yet here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he could, but I don't see that. I think that the way Dickinson and Curiel have consistently got on base, whether they're getting hits or not, I think having Stanfield in the 9-hole and being a second leadoff for that lineup, and I think that's extremely important. It turns it over pretty consistently. I think the bigger thing is who's going to drive those guys in, right? When the offense is struggling and sputtering, a lot of times it's because, Jared Jones and Fry and, Milam and those guys in the middle of the lineup aren't driving the guys in. Because, like you said, Curiel there hasn't been a game where he hasn't been on base. So there's guys on base for these guys that get driven in. And, kind of when offenses start to kind of go through these lulls and they struggle a little bit, a lot of the time it's because nobody's really driving guys in, getting hits the runners in scoring position and driving guys in. So, I mean, it conceivably could happen. I don't think that that's something that he would want to do. I think he's comfortable there, and there's not enough upside to move him up in the lineup compared to just keeping him down there. It's not really worth that move, I don't think.
How concerned are you with Stephen Milam hitting 200 in SEC play? Do you think it's just a matter of time before Monster goes on a hot streak here?
Yep, I think he did it last year, right? I mean, he struggled as a freshman early on in SEC, and he kind of made the adjustments and took off at the back half of the season. I mean, if you remember, I think the last 2 or 3 weekends of the year in the SEC tournament, he probably was the best hitter in the country. I think he hit 8 home runs in his last 12 or 13 games, something crazy like that. And so I have all the confidence in the world in him just because I've seen it. I saw it as a freshman. And then he has another year under his belt, and he's, he has that experience. There's no reason for me to believe that he's not going to do that again.
Well, what do you think at this point? Or how do you think they're going to perform here over the next 3 weekends, Mikey? They're really, really tough with Tennessee, A&M, and Arkansas.
Yeah, these are the 3 weekends I think everybody circled before the year started. Then obviously A&M got off to a god-awful start, and I think people kind of forgot about them, but they're playing really good baseball now. Tennessee's coming off a series loss to Kentucky. I like LSU this weekend at home. I think that the offense has not been great. It was better last weekend than it was the weekend before, and I think you're going to see them continue to go that way and take a step up. I'm really worried about the A&M road series. Not because of necessarily I don't believe that we can win. It's just, A&M's a hard place to play. LSU's lost 2 series on the road in the SEC, and they're running into a team that's feeling themselves and is real hot. That's going to be a tough series. It's going to be all about the starting pitching and getting some timely hitting, because I think the games are going to be pretty tight. And then the Arkansas team, I think Arkansas is the best Arkansas team that we may have I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Usually they're a pitching team, and this year they are both. I mean, they're raking, and they have, I think, 3 of the top 5 averages in the conference, and so it's going to be a tough 3-game stretch. But going into the season, they knew this. I like LSU to get through it. I think if they could go, where they played 9 games, if they can go, anywhere between 5 and 4 in those 9 games, I like their chances of winning an SEC, or at least having been in contention last weekend.
Mikey, thanks a lot for your time, man. We appreciate it.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library welcomes Jeffrey Marks, author of its 19th annual One Book, One Community Pick Season of Life, to the main library at Goodwood on Sunday, April 27th at 3 p.m. Learn more about this exciting author talk on youth mentorship at readonebook.org. That's ReadOnebook.org.